Why doesn't Steve Kerr run more pick and roll for Steph Curry? Make sure you check out part 1, pinned at top. That was more of a deep dive into the film. This one's going to be a little bit more math, graph oriented to show you some of the numbers behind his decision making. Make sure you subscribe, follow Scout with Bryan on Twitter, the podcast, YouTube channel. Let's hit it. First of all, we obviously saw, yes, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, and him taking a shot off basically any action is usually a pretty good result for the Warriors. In my opinion, though, and in Steve Kerr's, and even in Mark Jackson's to a large extent, Steph was at his best running off of off-ball screens all day long, floppy type sets, post splits, split game, all types of things to free him open. Yes, as you can see, Steve Kerr, not the world's biggest fan of the pick and rolls. They're always around bottom of the league in pick and roll frequency, despite being, yes, occasionally the most efficient team in the pick and roll, although sometimes it does dip a little bit. But it's really important to note that despite being really efficient in the league in the pick and roll, that offense for them is always worse than their offense as a whole. Sometimes as much as 20, 21 points per 100 possessions worse than their overall offensive efficiency. So in other words, even though they are great in pick and rolls, for them it's a much worse play than the rest of their offense, generally speaking. You see, even here, the Warriors' offensive efficiency not really correlated with Steph Curry's assists. If anything, when Steph's assists go down, the team's offensive efficiency tends to go up. The film backs this up as well. I don't even know, to be honest, what this is technically considered, if this is called a pick and roll in tracking software, or really what this obviously is a dribble handoff, to be more specific, out of elbow X, a set play they've added this season. But it basically, like most plays, ends up being kind of like a pick and roll anyway. Mitchell Robinson's up and aggressive at the level of the screen. Steph gets rid of the ball quickly. He's not a guy who loves to kind of split bigs and try to get downhill and keep the dribble alive 100 times. Yes, he can do that. He's capable of it. He certainly has done it sometimes in the playoffs when need be, but more frequently, he gets rid of the ball pretty quickly, and then, yes, you're dealing with the Warriors' subpar three-point shooters getting up a lot of threes. Here's another same type deal. This is out of delay set. Steph's going to come off. This time manages to kind of split the trap. Finds Andrew Wiggins, who, yes, shooting the ball pretty well from three this season. Traditionally, not as great. But regardless, this is basically, playing the numbers game. Steph kicking out to shooters, and this is a fine shot, but is it as great as the shots that Steph creates, flying off pin downs, getting wide open threes for himself, getting dunks and layups for everybody else? I don't think so. Like we talked about in the first video, occasionally also turnover prone. He's not one of the best players in the league at avoiding turnovers, and does rank pretty high up in the turnover rate as far as ball handlers, and pretty low in terms of assists compared to his usage rate. I'll post some of those stats on Twitter at ScoutWithBryan. Check out this one. Overall, the Warriors' offensive efficiency, which you can see up top, has also far exceeded, like I said, their efficiency from the pick-and-roll ball handler. Make sure you follow Zarnell on Twitter. He did a great job helping me with this project, has some great statistical insights, and you'll find a lot of stuff like this on his feed. The Warriors still are running pick and roll plays. This play they've been running for a long time. It's a little through action for Steph Curry, cross screening the big into a side pick and roll, trying to disguise it, get Steph freed up naked off the screen, which it almost does, and he's able to pull deep behind the screen. And again, I'm never going to tell Steph Curry not to shoot the ball. Pretty much every shot he takes, in my opinion, is a good shot. But again, these are difficult shots. You got a rear view contest from Ingles, you've got a contest from Favors. Not easy by any means. So even though Steve Kerr does run some of the pick and roll plays Mark Jackson ran, Steve Kerr's been running forever, so on and so forth, there are not many ways to free Steph Curry up, no matter how you look at it. Again, this play, not even a pick and roll. This was a screen-the-screener pin-down play it ended up being. But like I showed you before, what does it end up looking like? Offense is offense. Basketball is a simple game. Ultimately, the defense knows what you do great, and they're going to find a way to try to make things difficult for you. So this same pin down read ends up looking virtually like a pick and roll, where again, Mitchell Robinson's pretty aggressive, RJ Barrett's pretty aggressive from behind, Steph has to kick it, and then again, Kelly Oubre taking threes early in the shot clock. If you think about what could the Warriors be doing better, certainly he could improve his shot selection, drive the ball more, keep it moving. They don't need him taking contested threes with 13 on the shot clock. Here's another example. Okay, we set a high pick and roll with Draymond. We get this trap. We get a 4-on-3. But against teams that defend the rim well and have verticality there and, don't help off shooters so Draymond's not able to make a play for someone, you'll live with this if you're Utah. You'll live with that if you're going against the Warriors. Even this one, again, 2 on the ball against Draymond, the aggressive trap. This is what's certainly open for the Warriors, but is this a good shot for them? I know he makes it, and we have a tendency to evaluate offense solely by whether it goes in or not. But again, if I'm Utah, I'm living with Draymond Green taking a 10-foot floater. Everybody else staying home at shooters, staying home with Wiseman at the rim. Draymond can have this shot all game long if he wants. That is not going to consistently produce wins for the Warriors. Even for Steph himself, his offensive efficiency has always been much higher than his efficiency as a pick-and-roll ball handler. That has held true for a long, long time. You can see again here. Again, this is a handoff. I don't know technically what they consider this because obviously, functionally, it has a similar end result to a pick and roll, but once again, this is where Steph is tremendous. Off-ball movement, obviously flying off pin downs, but even this two-man game thing, setting Mike Conley up and then coming right back off Wiggins for the handoff. Great shot, good offense, good movement. How about this one here? Okay, this time we ran the high pick and roll, super high pick and roll. You need to set a lot of these screens at half court because of how aggressively teams try to guard Steph full court, slow him down, tire him out. Again, I'm never going to tell Steph bad shot. I don't mind the shot. He'll certainly make this sometimes. But the degree of difficulty, coming out of a trap in a pick and roll, pivoting like you're going to pass it back to Draymond, and then launching, kind of a standstill 26, 27-footer, not probably his most open shot by any means. We've seen him get far better open looks than that. And again, why don't you bring pick and rolls, handoffs, whatever, to him all game long? He's going to face a crowd. Again, when you run this stuff, teams are in a trap. They want the ball out of his hands, like the Knicks do here. And even the Warriors' lack of shooting forces Steph to see a whole bunch of bodies in the paint every time he even tries to get in there off of pick and rolls. All these hands, active hands on the ball, forces a turnover. Finally, even Steph's efficiency per dribble clearly bears out. You want him dribbling less, not more. His effective field goal percentage with 0 or 1 dribble, 59%. When you get up to 3 or more dribbles, goes to even below 53%. Obviously, the numbers back up. Steph, like Clay, better with fewer dribbles. Don't want him always having to put the ball down. Here's a play we saw in the initial video as well. Dive into a high pick and roll, which, alright, he had to bump off Bojan. Mike Conley ended up coming back into a contest. Again, makeable shot, certainly. The best shot the Warriors get, not by a long shot. Here's even older film where people are fond of pointing out that, yeah, Mark Jackson sometimes ran some more pick and rolls for him. So, okay, Steph dribbled around 10 times, found Draymond for a free throw line jumper. Again, he used to shoot the shot much better. And again, defenses don't care if Draymond takes that. They would gladly give him 30 of those shots a game. Even when Steph does manage to split it, get into the paint, you've got bigs like Gobert back at the rim. You've got defenses clogging the paint. Again, not a terrible shot by any means. Not a shot that I despise. But the Warriors seem to be at their best when Steph is flying around, keeping the ball moving, getting everybody involved. Here as he tries to come off the split game. Alright, I would think this one, again, probably gets classified as a pick and roll because that is what Wiseman does here, despite, it not being the initial play call. And yes, Steph does string it out and dribble an awful lot, but funny enough, this three that he ends up hitting and actually passed Reggie Miller for second all time, it's from him getting rid of the ball, him not continuing to dribble and dribble and dribble on pick and rolls. Get rid of it, get back out behind the three-point line. That's where he's at his greatest and most dangerous, off of constant movement and motion. Here, again, you see him doing a little curly kneel. If Steve Kerr deserves credit, it's absolutely for this more than anything. Making this action, which you see they didn't have with Mark Jackson as the head coach, Andre Iguodala pinching in on Steph Curry there, a staple of their offense today, and why it is the most beautiful motion offense that I've ever seen. Again, you didn't see it in this clip because they didn't have it back then. Now their motion rules pretty much every time Steph Curry gets inside the paint, every time he switches sides of the court, you're going to see bigs, guards, whoever, pinch in on Steph Curry. And again, that's where he's at his absolute greatest, flying around off movement, hitting those threes off of down screens. You see again in transition here, as Hassan Whiteside's doing a little pointing. Kelly Oubre, good pinch screen there, gets Steph to the corner. That's exactly what we didn't see from Iguodala in the first clip. I showed you this Kerr quote in the first video. When Steph's at his best, he's flying off screens, two defenders running at him, slipping to the rim, guys are getting dunks. Here's a couple more even examples of that. Draymond, the real point guard of this team, their assist leader every year. He is the better guy, just reading the floor, passing out of this stuff. And again, you see these are what Steph Curry's gravity creates. Him coming off these floppy type actions, forces a breakdown, and leaves Andrew Wiggins wide open for a dunk. That's what Steve Kerr's talking about. Even Draymond saying at times getting him off the ball helps a lot. When he's on the ball, teams are really locked in, focused on him. Getting him off the ball sometimes helps. This is kind of what Draymond's talking about. When you just come down and call a high pick and roll play, look at how focused the defense is. Even the guys that aren't guarding Steph are ready to help on him. They're in the paint. They are in good help positions. Chris Boucher on the ball is aggressive. Fred VanVleet's going to keep coming from behind. And again, that's a lot of bodies, a lot of hands up when Steph Curry shoots this ball. This far more predictable, again, than him getting rid of the ball and flying off of random movement and motion. Again, a shot he can make, but not his greatest asset. This, again, more along the lines of what Kerr talking about. Steph flying off the initial back pick and then coming back down off a pin down. Then what ends up happening, two guys go with him, creating the slip, creating an extra pass out of the slip pass, leading to open shots for his teammates, getting the ball flying around and moving. Thanks for watching. Make sure you thumb up, subscribe, and check out part 1 if you haven't already.